Previously on.
Previously.
Previously on.
Previously on.
Previously on.
Previously on.
Previously on.
Previously on.
Previously on the recap sequence.
Hey folks, welcome to the recap sequence. It's a Sunday morning. It's actually we're in the great outdoors celebrating a Father's Day in my unkept backyard. So I appreciate Ryan
yes,
tolerating the insects and all the grass around your ankles.
Well, that's quite all right. I'm good with it.
We have a real special episode coming right off the heels of ECCE. We've got Troy Little and Brenda Hickey here. Thanks so much for joining us today.
And happy Father's Day, Troy and Jamie.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So first off, we just saw you last week we saw Brenda at a table. Troy, I saw you essentially doing the tour. We were going around doing our interviews and kind of in concentric circles. We missed each other, but looks like everybody had a good time.
Yeah, I definitely had to get a look around quickly on Sunday morning or Saturday morning just to get to see everything and talk to everyone and stuff before I set up. So
yeah.
Brenda's more diligent than I am.
It's out of shyness. It's out of shyness.
How was the con?
It was good.
Yeah.
It felt like the energy was back to the proper level. Like last year, it felt like, people were still a little maybe nervous being in the crowds or something. But this year, it felt like everybody was comfortable again, and the ECC energy vibe was back. So
yeah, they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah,
I loved the new layout and everything was just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Everyone, a lot of new people too coming by.
Yeah.
That said had been their first time coming to the show. So
yeah,
they did a good job promoting it. Great turnout.
Yes.
Super happy from our point of view. So
yeah. Everybody, all the attendees seemed really happy too, which was always good. Everybody being happy to be there.
Yeah. That was one thing I got a lot of feedback on from a lot of people we talked to was the setup, the way they had the artists and writers that way. I've never seen it before at other conventions. So, I mean, you guys have traveled to many before. Is that something new for you guys as well? The way they did it this year?
Yeah, it's new. And it's nice too, because the center area, the volunteers would make sure there was always water there. So we didn't have to always be like, where's a volunteer to get the water? I'm thirsty. It's just super easy. Go back there and our kid loved it too. We were traveling with our 8-year-old Nathan, and he's like, "Oh, I can just sit in there all day and play my Roblox." So he's quite happy.
Great place to stow people. As we found out, actually, we went down to the GY6 area, and Hal Hilden kind of made an appearance on everybody's interview because he had central access. So I think that worked out. Depending on the type of person you are, you could use it for a great many things to your advantage. So. And we found it. I don't know if it really dealt with the congestion that you deal with at cons much, but it definitely directed people into different flows. I don't know if it would have been neat to see an overhead view of how the traffic moved versus other cons, but it was definitely a neat layout.
Instead of just being like a wall, like a vanguard of people you have to deal with kind of thing, people could kind of just like orbit these little things, and it just it really flowed nicely, I think.
Yeah, everybody was happy with it.
It was one of those ones we had talked to Brent about because I went looking around for a couple of people who I was like, did I miss them? So I'm having to do the circle and then go back. No, they're not at this one now. And sure enough, we found out that one of them wasn't able to make was Tara Odebert. She wasn't able to make it. So it was like, okay, did I miss her or not? But it seemed like everybody we talked to had a fantastic time. Friday night apparently was crazy busy again.
Yeah,
the second year in a row.
Friday, you never expect Fridays to be busy because. The first day, a couple hours, you're like, it'll be another sleepy Friday, which is normal for any con.
Right.
But
I was head down drawing and stuff from minute one. Like it didn't stop at all, which is kind of why I took Saturday morning to go walk around for a minute. I knew it was going to be the big day, and then Friday was already off the hook. So it was a lot. It was great.
Yeah.
We heard that was one of the things that like people noted kind of the most. It was we show up first thing in the morning at these things, so we kind of get everybody's Friday. However it went really kind of predicts how the next morning's going to be for interviews for us. So everybody was really excited and the whole lot of energy that must have carried over from the night before. So really glad to hear that as well. And sorry we missed it. We were we couldn't get away from work to come down.
Real life steps in and
Yeah.
takes hold. So
Yeah. So how are things going with so Pegamoose has been working on a great number of things. I was just going back. You guys were in France actually
Yes.
earlier this year. Let's very quickly. How was that?
It was great. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Angoulême Festival, which they have there every year since like the 70s. This year they were doing a Canadian spotlight, so there was a lot of opportunity for many different Canadian creators to go over and represent. So we met a lot of Canadian creators there too, which was a lot of fun, like people from the prairies that, you know, scenes we don't normally get to because Canada's a big country with a lot of space in between. So yeah, meeting other Canadians even from other
Sure.
regions was a lot of fun. And the festival itself was
Oh my God.
phenomenal.
Yes. It's like this
Yeah.
medieval town that's just
Mhm.
completely built on the back of comic books.
Yeah.
All the street signs are word balloons with,
Mhm.
and like outside the Canadian Pavilion, there's a giant bronze sculpture of Hergé's head.
oh
Yeah.
wow.
Huge murals and
Yeah, on the side of the buildings there'd be comic murals.
Asterix
Yeah,
and-
Yeah, I saw you posted a couple of those pictures there, and just I was so envious. You see asterisks right on a giant wall, like
Yeah.
not graffiti. This is actual art.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. What was really cool too about that, when you see the if you look it up and if you Google the image, it's Asterix and all the characters that the creator had made, and the creator is right in the middle, and he's at his drawing table. Now we were driving across that bridge at night, and headlights hit it. They had painted reflective paint on it so that it was like a glowing explosion coming out with all the
Yeah.
characters flying out from the artist's table. I
Yeah.
was like, wow, you didn't even know that was there until like you're there at the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the show was set up really well too, that we'd have signings for like an hour, like at the Canadian Pavilion, but also Le Nouveau Monde, right?
Yep.
And we do those, but then we weren't at the table the whole time, so we could also go and enjoy the exhibits. And we were able to get a book signed for our daughter, who
Yeah.
loved this one comic artist from Barcelona that she's like, I'll never get this book signed. But sure enough, they were at Angoulême, so
Yeah.
we were able to be parents of the year by getting this book signed for our kid. So it was nice too that we got to also observe so much of the festival as well. And
Oh yeah.
Go
Big
big.
massive comic museum there
Yeah.
with original artwork from
yeah, pencils
Yeah.
from Tintin. Like,
Yeah.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they had a food theme going on, so their themed area was like all original pages from different comics, from European comics, American comics, even some manga pages. Anything food themed, they would put those pages on display. So that was really cool to see. Like some of the manga pages they had with the tones on it and everything, the smaller size. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, or you can get
Yeah.
right up close to original Asterix and see all
Yeah.
the pencil work and everything. Like really, it
Yeah.
was just mind blowing, the whole event.
Yeah,
Right.
just
Yeah.
the love of the medium, you know,
Yeah.
it's just so that's the whole weekend, and everybody's there for comics and the bande dessinée and everything that it is. And
It was really
Yeah.
educational because it's very different than the North American.
I was going to ask. Yeah.
yeah, because we did a little bit of shopping, like our Pegamoose catalog. We were shopping at the Rights Market, and we were also shopping other catalogs, you know, in case there's something in Europe Pegamoose might want to help facilitate in the North American market. So we were seeing the French numbers for print runs, and they're like 25,000. And we were like,
75,000.
75,000, because 25,000 is like, it's a smaller print run. We're like, you never saw that many comics in North America. So it just blew my mind, because France is just like a little country and we're this huge continent, and I'm like,
Yeah.
somehow they can manage
But
these
it's
sales.
one in every four, every
Yeah.
5 books sold in France is a bande dessinée. So
Yeah.
it's
That's
big. It's
incredible.
just part of their culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
So-
how do we get it to be more of North America's culture to be reading these books?
So this must have been like a bucket list then for you guys as artists
Oh,
and writers to be able to go over and experience this. And I'm sure while you didn't see everything you wanted to see
Oh
and
no.
wanted to go back now.
Yeah, because
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it's such a big festival that it's like until you're there, you don't really have any context for how big it is. So to do it the first time is kind of like to get the layout of it and to kind of make sense of it. So next time you can do it better. It's how it
Yeah,
felt.
yeah. It was just throw yourself into it, and once you kind of make sense of it, you'll do it better the second time around. Yeah.
Yes, because
Right.
it's definitely a lot to take in. Like just
Yeah.
books and books and books, and after a while you almost get a little blind to it and you feel bad because you're like, I'm sure I passed like 10, 20 of my next favorite books, but I just feel overwhelmed almost by the sheer volume of things I've never seen that everything looks cool.
Yeah, you felt like a baby there because all
Yes.
the stuff was not Marvel, it was not DC. It's just a whole world of comic books that we don't have exposure to.
Yeah.
So it was my exciting. We
It
came back
was,
just
yeah.
kind of really jazzed about
Yeah,
making comics. again.
yeah. So I've been pretty head down since getting back, trying to get my next book done. I was like, oh,
Were you guys able to find something that you were like, I had to have this and wasn't expecting it and came back with something?
Yeah, we got a few books, but we also had to kind of be mindful of what we could actually carry with us because they're
True,
all
yeah.
hardcover books. Like
Yeah.
there are big, heavy hardcover books. A lot of these things. So.
Yeah, and all in French, and our French is terrible.
Yeah.
I was like, I bought them thinking, oh, I'll learn, like I'll use it to practice and learn how to read French, but I need so much assistance. It's just like slogging through mud, but the artwork is like,
Yeah,
I've
the
poured
art's
over it
beautiful.
many times, the
Yeah.
artwork, and I'm like, oh, I just have to, should have paid more attention in school.
So do you find that what your experience in France does that kind of change the needle on how your work is looked at going forward? Did you get a lot of inspiration from it, or was it more of a like kind of we have what we do and it has its own fit in this particular sort of culture as well? How did that work out?
I think we've been kind of like loosely inspired by it for a while. Like with Butterfly House,
Yeah.
we designed it right off the bande dessinée size books and like sort of slim volume, and just kind of seeing the way that they present their books and the way that I guess they give artists some breathing room. They're not coming out monthly, so the artists can take a little bit longer and put better artwork into the book, a bigger page count, without being an overwhelming amount of pages. So it's kind of where we were headed anyways, but it reinforced that this is actually a doable way of making books sort of thing, and presenting them in a nice format. So it kind of aligned with what we had in mind, but then seeing the entire culture like that instead of floppies and trade paperback stuff,
Right.
it was totally different vibe.
Yeah, but I think in a way we get inspired by everything. We're like,
Yeah.
oh, I want to try this, I want to try that. So we keep laughing at ourselves for not being consistent because just everything inspires
It's all good.
Because I'm like, oh, I love the bande dessinée, but wouldn't it be fun to do like an actual, like trying to make it like manga kind of thing with the black and white zip tones and a 200-page volume? And I'm like, I want to do this and I want to do
You
that.
just want to
and
do everything.
Yeah, I want to do everything. That's my problem, and there's just not enough time in the day. And
So
then
you guys brought it up then. So I've got my copy right here, the Butterfly
Hey.
House. Yes, as we can see, there we go. Hey, how about that?
Yeah.
Talk to us about this. Where did the concept come from? It's a super cool book that I used to get these all the time when I was growing up. I love this idea of comics. Where did this whole thing, the whole idea come from for you guys?
Well, I mean, for so many years we've been doing comics, but we do them separately. And every so often people will be like, "You gonna collaborate?" And we're like, maybe, I don't know. If something comes up, if we have an idea. And so we just get chatting, like anytime we'd be, because Troy's mother lives in Summerside, so it's a 45-minute drive. So sometimes we'd just be driving to fill the time. We'd be like, well, what do you think of this idea? What do you think of that idea? And it just kind of started organically like that. Like if we did collaborate, how do we want to do it? Would we want to break it up to one of us drawing it, one of us writing it? And I think it was just, we're like, well, we both write, we both draw. So that's where the flip book idea came in.
Yeah, it started.
Yeah.
Brenda said I think she was working on My Little Pony at the time, and she just like, I'd like to do a genre book, like a haunted house story sometime. The idea just intrigued her of, what's a haunted house and what came before, how did it get haunted? And that kind of spawned into, hey, what if we did a 2-part where like how a house got haunted and then someone exploring that haunted house.
Yeah, just the idea, I guess, of like because whenever I was a kid, I went to the woods and there was this house that was abandoned and it had graffiti all over the wall. So you just think, you can't help but wonder like who lived here before. And so just the idea of finding little clues of who lived there before. But yeah, we decided to take it in a haunted house direction and split it into the 2 timelines. So yeah, and then we could both do the writing and drawing, and it all happened so organically and through a lot of
just talking back and forth. I'd just get ideas and like, hey, what if this? And then she'd get, hey, what if this? And about 2 years we just kind of like poked at the idea until we like sat down one night and figured it out.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun because we could experiment with the BD format, but also we were working on so many licensed things at the time. We're like, well, how do we take the comics and just kind of take the whole format and put it out the window a little bit? Like the format of you gotta do the script first, you gotta make sure it's approved, and you gotta lay out the pages and have it all pre-planned. So we made sure we had the page count and the story points that would happen on each page, but we didn't actually give it a script or anything.
Yeah, we wanted to be very organic and
Yeah.
little David Lynchy, I suppose. That sort of mysteriously weird vibe to it.
Yeah, just to kind of take some of that format and put it aside, because we're like, it's necessary and makes sense for the licensed stuff and for other projects, but every project's different.
Yeah.
And if you want to try something new, like there's always room for that, and to do it with a smaller book as well, so you didn't feel like the experiment would like take over your life almost. It was like a thing to,
and it was an experiment.
Yeah, and people seemed to resonate with it, which was a lot of fun, because we had fun making it. But you make a thing in kind of the void and you hope maybe it'll connect with somebody, but the response has been so good. We're like, that's really cool, because we like making it so much that to see that people are responding to it positively, it's really, really encouraging.
Well, actually, it's fun. There's a couple of colleagues that I work with who were at the show as well, and they actually picked up the last two books that you guys had. One got one off Troy's table, and the other person was like, "Oh, I was hoping to get one," and Troy just pointed and said, "Brenda still got one right there."
Right.
Went over and got it, and they absolutely love it, because
Cool.
we don't see this kind of book anymore. And I think the concept's cool. Did you guys ever find where you actually had to say, okay, we've got to end this somewhere? Like, could you have kept going with the story? Because the story ends very nicely, but there was times I was like, oh, they could keep going and create all sorts of weird and wild stuff.
Well, I think the story was kind of just what it needed to be, but just because of the positive response, we just thought, this would be, we call it our EP, like our little project between projects.
Yeah.
Because it was a smaller commitment from two of us to make a book, and so that worked out well. And we actually have an idea for another one in a similar format, tangentially kind of involving this book. So
again, a little David Lynchy with like a weird
stories within
weird stories within a little community kind of idea, kind of like Twin Peaks would be. So like, wouldn't that be fun to kind of tangentially tell another story, which maybe touches on this one a little bit, but also explores a different aspect or a different character in this same place.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
And does your experience then with the Butterfly House and how that process sort of came together, does that give you a bit of a formula for this, or do you like the idea of keeping it open, like let's approach this kind of with the same goals in mind, but however the method takes us, it takes us?
Yeah, I think we'd like to experiment again with the style of it a little bit, like the presentation, because this had the watercolor paper and like the ink and pen sort of look, and a little gritty. I'm like, it'd be fun to depending on the tone we're looking for, to change up the art a little bit, like the approach to the page that way.
Yeah, so when I drew my half of the book, which was about a year before Brenda did her half of the book, like I just did whatever I felt like doing, and I was like, you do whatever you feel like doing. And in a weird way, they kind of complement each other without looking like they were intentionally made to, like, this is the character and you have to keep it on model kind of thing. So the idea that there's two perspectives happening from two different artists, we wanted that to reflect in the art, and we want to carry that forward too. Yeah,
so certain things, but still with the flexibility that we enjoyed with Butterfly House.
Yeah, keep it an experiment, so it's fun for us.
Yeah.
Do you work with like with the license stuff? Obviously, you've got deadlines, and there's other expectations involved. How do sort of deadlines and
you guys
sort
set
of
deadlines for
milestones
yourselves
work when you're managing that, and other work, and of course being parents? How do you work all that in?
We do whole panels on that. How long have you got on that subject? Oh boy, it's a lot, but we tend to tag team a lot of things. So if Brenda was working on Agretzko for a good year or so, right?
Yeah, I was working on the Agretzko Netflix original, doing the comics for that with Oni Press from 2019 to early 2022. So that gave Troy time, because I was paying the bills. So I was like, you can do the Pegamoose stuff that we kind of have to, we invest the time up front and the payoffs later.
So I was working on my long-running graphic novel, and And then that got put on hold so I could take some paying gigs with Rick and Morty, and then she went to work on her projects. And we kind of have to tag team a lot, it feels, because otherwise we'd just be doing comics all day and no one would eat and everything would be filthy. It would be a mess.
Yeah, and it's usually if one person's on the licensed stuff, then the other one's trying to get the Pegamoose stuff done. That's not on a strict deadline the same way. And you can do that. So that's what I've been doing lately with the Don't Call Me Sidekick, that I've got my next Pegamoose book.
And The Orchard of the Tame, you ran the entire Kickstarter for that.
Yeah, and I formatted the book.
Did everything.
Yeah.
So
except draw it.
Except draw, yeah.
That was Nick Cross and Marvel.
I can't take that much credit. It's not my book. It's just I'm helping to facilitate it, and I'm happy to do so.
How was the Kickstarter experience? Was this your first Kickstarter experience, so to speak, with like third one? Okay, so I assume the Golden MacGuffin was one of them.
Second.
That was the second.
Turnip King, Golden MacGuffin, Butterfly House, Orchard of the Tame was our fourth.
Here we go. There we go. 1,
2. All right.
And 3.
Okay.
There we go. How did you guys? What's that?
Hooray for crowdfunding! Thanks, everybody.
What's your experience has been like with Kickstarter? I mean, that first one must have been a little unnerving, because I know when I obviously I got all 3 of them. I was more than happy to support this, because I love the concepts of what you guys were doing, and I know like with Butterfly House, it looked like the levels kept going up the more people were supporting it, which was super exciting as well. Like the ideas you guys were crafting to come up with all of this stuff.
Yeah, I think Kickstarter, like with anything we do, we kind of jumped into it with half a plan. So we asked some advice from Giselle, like I say, from New Brunswick. She's run a bunch, so we did have some sort of idea of what we were getting into approaching Kickstarter. And we also knew that to do a Kickstarter, we definitely want to make sure our books were completed before we ran the campaign. So because I know there's a lot of trepidation with people being like, I'm spending my money on a thing and I'm taking a chance on this. Will it be fulfilled? Will I even have a book at the end of the day? So we always made sure, like, Turnip King was done and Gore Napkin was done, but I think you had a little bit more to do on Gore Napkin, and Turnip King was pretty much ready. So which is why we launched with Turnip King. Yeah,
we pretty much make sure we have, before we run the Kickstarter, the books are going to be done so we can deliver quickly. I mean, just kind of getting people's trust on these platforms and holding it is, you need to kind of,
it's paramount.
It's the most important thing, and doing a good book and getting it to them quickly. And they'll come back for more. They'll be happy. I've seen it go the other way so many times that we didn't want to be part of that.
So at least we came in, even though we were like jumping in with like, maybe our approach wasn't as polished back then, and we're looking back and being like, oh, I can't believe I didn't know this now that I've done 4 of them. But I mean, just having that idea of going in with a finished product, and
you learn what does and doesn't work by doing them, so you refine it each time, and hopefully it gets a bit tighter, more clear. And
each campaign's different. So even if
I was going to ask, is there differences each one?
Oh yeah.
Some things that work for one thing, like with Turnip King 2, we had that grace of it being our first one, so a lot of friends and family will buy in on the first one and help support. But you can't really keep relying on that. The more books you do, you have to build that audience beyond your friends and family as well. So, and we did a lot more sketch auctions and stuff.
We tried different things, like live drawings and anything. We use social media to promote it. And then we're finding social media is getting more and more difficult to get, eyes on it because of the algorithms and stuff than it used to be. So your Facebook reach and stuff like that was like a 3% on our last Kickstarter. Like it really didn't do anything anymore.
Whereas that was, I think, it
was at one time.
Like, because we would do our auctions and live drawings on Facebook Live, so people would tune in and watch us sketch things and bid on it while we were sketching. But I don't think that's going to be viable moving forward, just with the current climate of social media. So it's harder to reach people for sure. So we have to kind of readjust and find new ways. And
you adapt, and hopefully you try something and see if it sticks. And if it does, will it work next time? It's always kind of a moving target.
Yes, for sure. So
Do you find it at all? I mean, obviously, when you lose the reach that social media gives you, I mean, that's definitely a difficult thing to have to work around. But social media can also kind of be a trap to some. Like, first of all, I mean, do you enjoy using social media personally? Okay, good. And could it be considered somewhat refreshing, I guess, to have to find other approaches that kind of can, put that off to the side, even though as scary as it is, that's it's obviously captured a lot of audience, but you're absolutely right. I mean, we also live and die by algorithms. I don't even know what I'm looking at when I look at my social media anymore. Do you think that there's going to be something that like a new and emerging way of getting this stuff out there, or do you think it's going to be going back around to sort of the older ways of doing things? Your networking and your boots on the ground at conventions.
yeah.
I think it's going to have to kind of go back because where it's going isn't good for anyone. It doesn't help anybody. It's necessary evil in some ways. You all feel like you have to use it to some degree. In some cases, it does or doesn't work. But getting out and actually meeting people at conventions is always still like the best way to kind of showcase what you have and put it in people's hands, and they can flip through it. They can meet you and talk to you, and
Yeah, and trying to find
Yeah.
the conventions too, like East Coast Comic Expo is really good that there's a big focus on the comic artists. So going to the shows where the comics are the focus. Like we did Toronto Comic Arts Festival, which has always been really good for us with our original books. And then you did solo, you did
I went
Montreal
down
Comic Con.
MCAF after that.
Yeah. So
And I hadn't done MCAF before. It's just an opens, they knock off about 5 blocks of a street and set up tents, and it's just book artists all the way down. And it was phenomenal. Like I had no idea how well that show would do for us, but it was probably one of our best shows ever.
Yeah, so targeting not just conventions, but the ones that are looking more to us. Like it wouldn't make sense if we were like going to Doctor Who conventions or something. So find the ones that are like looking for original books, and the people that are going to these shows are looking for something they've never seen before.
Right.
As opposed to somebody who's like, oh, I just want you to draw Batman for me.
Yeah.
Which
See,
is
I
fine,
can-
it's fine for certain circumstances and people, but for Pegamoose, we'll definitely have to focus our efforts.
See, I can attest to that though, because the first time I met Troy was at Decaf, the very first one they did. And that's where I got the first the Angora napkin book, and just loved it because 4-hour drive. I had it done before I got home. And it's that kind of convention you go to because it's arts. It's you don't know what you're going to find there, and it's really neat. I'm so happy that Decaf is continuing on there. But yeah, that's where I met Troy. Was the first one was the original Decaf at Alderney Landing there.
Yeah, it's nice to see these maritime shows lasting for so long. Like East Coast Comic Expo, we were there at the first one in 2013.
She shut the place down that first show. They were moving tables out. She still had a lineup. My Little Pony was like at its
Ponies
peak.
was so hot at that time. It's like I kind of had no idea because I was in it, but now with retrospect, I was like, oh man, I didn't realize how good the ponies had.
Yeah.
She had a lineup when there's no one else in the building.
I'm just head down working all the time. Sometimes I don't notice what's going on around me. And I'm like, geez, just take your head up from your desk for like 2 seconds to look around.
I'm not surprised as a dad of 3 girls in 2013. I watched a lot of Friendship is Magic on television. I know a lot of the major storylines, and it just burned itself into my brain. So it's a big part of my my maturing as well.
And who's your favorite pony?
I think Applejack. Applejack's got like a good philosophy towards things. Bit of a leader. Ryan.
Sorry.
To have a talk.
Would have to, my thing's a little off the rail right now. I didn't think I would. This is Troy's new book. It's Cult of the Lamb. It came out the week leading up to ECCE, so I picked it up and I was like, Troy, this was originally I was going, what am I reading? And then I thought back, I was like, well, he just finished Rick and Morty. And then I just looked at it as another universe from Rick and Morty. And I enjoyed it from then on out.
Right, yeah.
Cult of the Lamb, though. Can you say a few words about it here?
I can say lots about Cult of the Lamb. I'm a devout follower, let's just say, of the cult. So, I was actually had pitched a Rick and Morty miniseries to Oni. And they were like, they really liked it. They had almost greenlit the project. They said, like, top of our 2024 list. And then my editor at Oni came back to me and says, actually, we have something that might be a better fit for you, like a really good fit. And she says, you ever hear of Cult of the Lamb? And I'm like, no, I did not hear this. I'm about to be indoctrinated. And I was. It's a video game. It came out during, I think, the pandemic from this game company called Devolver out of Australia. And they sent me a copy of the game to play. And it's so much fun. You're just this cute little chibi characters, this little lamb. And you have to go around and like slaughter the heretics and basically raise your cult on the resources on the backs of all your murder and mayhem. So
You said it's a bit like Farmville, but with cults.
yeah, because you have to,
take care
of them, feed them, clothe them, and
clean up after them.
Yeah,
they make messes.
Sacrifice them on occasion if you need, So yeah, so the idea was to take that and turn that into a comic book series. So earlier this year, I ran a Kickstarter in March, and it went absolute gangbusters. It was one of the top Kickstarter back projects for comics. I think it's number 6 or something like that. But it made it's ridiculous sums of money. So the fan base for this thing is absolutely rabid. And I had no idea about it until I started playing the game and looking into it. But yeah, now everywhere I look, there's lamb costumes coming up to me in cosplay at conventions, and I'm like, okay, wow, this is.
Troy's like, is this how you felt with ponies with all these?
Yeah, she's like, now
it's your
enjoy.
It's your
turn now. She says, passes the torch to me.
That's true, because when I walked by your table on Saturday, you were doing blank comic covers. It was all Cult of the Lamb every time I was there, and you were posting a few of them on social media, and I was like, what is this? Like, I had never heard of this until the book came out. And
now you'll see it everywhere. It's that thing, you have no idea. It's just on the side of your peripheral vision, but it's there and it's big.
I'll have to look up the game then.
I hadn't
even heard of the game. So how long's the game been out? It's got a huge fan base. Has it been around for quite
it's
some
only been
time?
A couple of years, like maybe 2022, maybe.
Okay.
Like, it's been very long. It's been out. And they keep updating it with new content. There's great animations on YouTube that they kind of use to promote the new releases. It's like super dark, charming, and creepy, and everything. It just, between my Powerpuff Girls and Rick and Morty, like, perfect
perfect marriage.
Well cast.
Yeah.
Tony, well cast.
Yeah.
So I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Good.
Oh yeah, for sure. I can imagine why. So one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you guys today, Pegamoose Press. How did all of this come about?
It was just a lot of we had a couple of those projects that you've got in your hands there in the works for 7-8 years, and getting a little, I guess, I had Gordon Napkin with IDW, and it never really caught on with them. And I kept thinking, with crowdfunding and all these things, maybe we can do it, and maybe we could even do it better, if we actually had our hands in it. And we could give these books a home. We have nothing to lose but to try it out.
Yeah, it was basically to give a home to these books and present them in a nice format.
That was a big part.
We put a lot of time into them, and we're like, well, we just want it to have its best face forward out in the world. And
I mean, and that's grown from doing your book, my book, our book, to actually now we are publishing someone else's book for the first time, which is our most recent Kickstarter.
Yes.
For a book called Orchard of the Tame.
Saw that, yeah.
So just before the Cult of the Lamb Kickstarter, we ran a Kickstarter for that book.
They were at the same time.
Same time.
Yeah, Cult of the Lamb was supposed to run in January, but it got bumped. And then they're like, guess what? We're launching it this day. We're like, that's this day after we launch Orchard of the Tame. It was kind of funny, the two were running at the same time. And then the difference between like indie comic and then this Cult of the Lamb thing that's like this huge following from this video game. Troy put the two browsers side by side. I'm like, that's just mean. Don't do that.
I
mean, Orchard of the Tame was doing well, but just in that indie book sense. So it's like you just can't compete. So it's like, that's mean. Don't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Orchard of the Tame. Troy's friend Nick Cross and his wife Marlo Meekins had made this book together. It was originally an animation pitch for Cartoon Network because Nick Cross was working with Cartoon Network at the time. and they pitched this idea that Marlo came up with and did storyboard for it and all this stuff. But it didn't quite fit the Cartoon Network format. I think just the way the running time they wanted to put it at, they ended up ultimately passing. So they had this project that was sitting around, not really, not really doing anything for a period of time. And
Nick was working as the art director for Jeff Smith's Bone, the animated series that was
wow.
on Netflix.
Yeah,
Right
so
on.
we went from Cartoon Network to Netflix.
And
then,
the Bone project lasted about a year
Mhm.
before they went on hiatus because of the pandemic.
Mhm.
And then it all fell apart. But I mean, Nick was unfortunately, and I'll die mad about this, the perfect guy to make a
Mhm.
2D Bone adaptation.
Mhm.
And he'd spent so much time studying Jeff Smith's work. He just decided, I guess, to take that animation pitch, turn it into a 376-page graphic novel,
Yeah.
black and white, beautiful,
Mhm.
and he just put it out on his like Gumroad to buy for $10. And I was like, are we not getting a print version of this? Because I want a print copy. I don't read stuff on the computer if I can help it.
Yeah, but that's just like Nick is
You
one
know.
of those artists. Is like he makes a thing, but once it's done, he's like,
He's on to the next thing.
onto the next thing, and it's like the thought of publishing and putting it together and promoting. He's like, I just want to move on. So we're like, we've been doing the self-publishing thing, and with your book, I think that's where we'd love to take a chance and start branching out. If you don't mind, if you would like to collaborate with us on this. And he gave us his blessing. So he's like, oh yeah, you send me the books you guys make and you do a good job. So I wouldn't, because he did pitch it around to some different publishers and they passed. And we were like, why would they pass? This book is so good.
It's a little weird, but in the best way. Like it's an
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful and astonishing work. So
yeah.
we lucked out that everyone else passed on it because then we get to publish it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so we've been putting it together, and Nick's quite happy with everything we've been doing to help promote it and run the Kickstarter for it and get it in print. And
Yep.
So if people are listening or watching this and they want to get their hands on this now, the Kickstarter campaign's done, obviously.
Yeah.
Where could they go to find this?
Well, the books haven't come in yet, so
Mhm.
we're hoping around August we should have copies.
Okay.
Once
Yes.
the Kickstarter's fulfilled, they'll be available on our website and hopefully some shops, other places like that. So we'll probably have a bigger announcement of like when it's wildly available,
Yeah.
how to let people know how to get it.
Yeah, but definitely we're looking to fulfill the Kickstarter August, and any announcement about where it will be available afterwards will likely be the fall of this year.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on Pegamoose in the fall for some cool news.
Is that something you guys are now trying to do with Pegamoose as well, as when you go to these conventions or these arts festivals and stuff like that, and looking at some of the indie work that's out there and saying, hey, do you want to work? Because that's one thing that we found in the last couple of years, especially coming out of the pandemic, is that the amount of creative energy out there with people, is unbelievable. The talent that's out there is unbelievable, and it just seems like it took the pandemic to bring that to the forefront.
Yeah.
It's definitely something we have our eyes on. I can't say we are actively soliciting for things because we're small. We can do about 2 books a year, and one of them at least is going to be one of our books. So we have to be very choosy about where we're going to put all our energies into another book. So Nick was a bit of an experiment, Nick and Marlo's book, and we're going to go from there. But definitely, even when we were in France, we were taking some meetings and looking at some foreign editions and stuff, thinking, wouldn't it be neat to be able to bring a translated book from Europe that people don't see and put that in the North American market?
Yeah.
So there's lots of ideas, and I feel like we're kind of at the bottom of the next phase of Pegamoose.
We definitely don't want to rush in and get in over our heads or anything, because we want to make sure that when we take on someone's book, we treat it really well. So we don't want to just be like, okay, floodgates are open, let's see what people have, and then get overwhelmed and can't treat people the way we would want to. So we have to be very, it's just the 2 of us here, so we have to make sure that we can take in what we can manage.
We wouldn't do anyone's book that we couldn't treat as well as our own, because we'd want to treat it like with that kind of respect. So.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I find it interesting as well with Troy, because I'm very much like Troy. The Gold MacGuffin. I had to have a
Mhm.
copy. I'm someone who has to have substance in my hands to be able to read it, and I love that about these kind of these kind of things you guys put out here. Halls of the Turnip King, same thing, right? Like it's just to be able to hold substance in my hands.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and put the product. It feels nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
The paper's good.
Mhm.
You put a lot of work into comics, so in a way, you don't want to devalue it. By the North American market has kind of made it a disposable object with 25-cent floppy comics, newspaper things. They were always treated as disposable. So one of the nice things when you see France, where all these books are big, beautiful hardcover bound things, which are oversized, lavish art that wasn't rushed out in 20 days.
Mhm.
You're like, wow, maybe we could do things better. Maybe, maybe be part of the solution and not part of the problem. But but things are changing. I mean, it is changing a lot. A lot more graphic novels and trade paperbacks and special
Yeah.
editions have all come out because of the
Yeah.
availability of crowdfunding and printing being more available.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just even like the young adult market, you go into Indigo or any bookstore, and the young adult section is like, there's never been more graphic novels than now.
Right.
in that
Yeah.
section. Yeah, so it's I couldn't imagine when I was that age, like
Mm.
middle school to high school, having all that reading material and comics. Blow my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find you were talking about printing? Is printing more readily available than it once was? I guess like I think of things like like the explosion of vinyl records. All of a sudden now there's presses all over the place
Yeah.
now that press independently press vinyl. Do you find that sort of these Kickstarter and crowdfunding campaigns to self publish have sort of maybe kickstarted a bit of a market as well of independent publishers, like the
Yeah.
actual printing of it?
Yeah, it's crazy what you can do as an independent person, like all the acrylic charms, the stickers, you can make your own figurines and everything. Like it just feels like the sky's the limit if you can
Yeah.
imagine it, you can raise the funds for it. You can connect with those people that are producing these products. So yeah, I just can't believe it.
Yeah, the technology's made it very
Yeah.
affordable to get high quality print
Mhm.
on demand books if you're not looking to go full offset.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The internet's giving you connectivity to overseas markets where you can print more affordably if you need to, sort of thing.
Yeah.
We've printed in Canada. We're looking at printing offshore just to try to see what how does that kind of affect things, because it's an expensive thing to make books. So as much as we want physical books,
Yeah.
you have to get grounded in the reality of that costs a lot to produce as well. So
Mhm.
that's held us back a bit, but we're
Yeah.
looking at other options about that too.
Mhm. Like I said, we learn as we go.
Yeah,
So.
Yeah.
You try a thing and then you adapt and you try another thing,
Yeah,
and if that
'cause
didn't
we're-
work.
Oh, because we're the first 3 books we did were printed in Canada, and we were proud of that.
Yes.
And then we're like, okay, but now we've got to start seeing this as a serious, like how do we make some profit off this? Because
Sure.
we're pretty much just like everything's been covered through the Kickstarter, but the profits are just like, oh well, I guess we have to start thinking about this too.
Yeah, if you want to keep being able to do it,
Yeah.
and
And especially too, when we've got Nick's book, and it's like we don't want to just be like, okay, we published your book, but we're not going to give you any profit from it. So, like it just felt funny, like when we published somebody else's book, that kind of shaped us up a little bit to be like, okay, no, that somebody else is now counting on us. And I know we kind of farted around the first 3 books because it was our own stuff, but it's time to stop farting around and get a little bit more serious.
definitely treat their books better than our own.
Yeah.
But it's a good learning experience. It kind
Yeah.
of kicked us up into that next
Mhm.
level.
Yeah, exactly. And it needed to happen.
What's your guys' con schedule now for the rest of the year? Because I know we were trying to set up something with you guys in May, and that was right as you guys were hitting the convention schedule, right up to
Oh, May was
ECCE.
mental.
Yeah, May is always crazy.
Yeah.
So the crazy month is behind us. We're doing decaf August.
Nice.
11th, Dartmouth Comic Arts Festival
Yep.
for sure. And you're doing
I got a show, Granite Con in New Hampshire, which is it's a pretty turtle heavy show, but this is like the 40 years of Ninja Turtles. So
Mhm.
Right.
I've worked kind of tangentially with Kevin Eastman on the Radically Rearranged Ron and Ragdolls and Drawing Blood series. They invited me down as a guest for that as well.
Oh, nice.
That's gonna be a lot of fun.
and then
There might be another show or two towards the end of the year. Oh,
Yeah,
you got a
and-
Prairie Con.
Yeah, the Prairie Comic Arts Festival. I applied for that and got in. So
Oh, nice.
Troy was a solo promoting Pegamoose at Montreal, I will be solo promoting Pegamoose in the Prairie Comic Arts Festival.
Oh, so are you heading to Montreal Comic Con in like 3 weeks? I think.
No, I did that.
No, sorry, the MCAF.
Oh,
Sorry.
there's another.
He was an
Okay, that's the
MCAF,
MCAF.
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, when he
Yeah.
was an MCAF, he did Pegamoose solo. So Prairies
Yeah.
is like Winnipeg is where I'll be
Is that
promoting it.
Nice.
October?
October, yeah.
So I think I'm September. We got August for decaf, September for Grand Con for me, October is Prairie Con.
Yeah.
There may be another one in there that isn't locked down yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's been a bit of
Yeah.
a slim year for conventions, but I feel like we needed to just stay home and
Mhm.
make some books.
It's not like you guys don't have anything to do right now.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, there's all
yeah.
the Kickstarter to fulfill yet in August when that comes out,
Yes.
and then getting set up for Brenda's next book, which will be running in October as well.
Yeah.
So there's plenty to do.
Yeah, so when the conventions weren't knocking on the door or anything, we're like, that's fine. I think I need to get some work done so that it justifies going to the conventions a little more.
And
so.
Brenda, your book will be through Kickstarter as well in October.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exciting. And Troy, how long is the run of Cult of the Lamb?
We've got it's called The First Verse. So the Kickstarter was for the first book, which will be 4 issues plus a holiday special, whatever a holiday special constitutes in a cult.
Yes.
We'll find that out. And that's coming out in December, the collected volume. So it's going to be monthly until then. I'm working on issue 3 as we speak.
Oh, that's exciting.
Amazing.
That is really amazing.
Yeah.
One other question here, because we do appreciate you guys taking the time to spend Sunday morning here with us. But House of the Dragon premieres tonight, season 2. Are you guys watching? Or I know Troy, you don't have a big taste for Star Wars acolytes. I saw that the other day.
Man, I want to like everything Star Wars. I want to like it. I'm the target audience for it.
Mhm.
And I'll be there Tuesday night at 10 o'clock when it goes here. So irregardless of whatever happens, I'm going to be watching it. But we never even finished Game of Thrones. The last season we fell off, and
Okay.
And then when it got review bombed, but with the ending, I was like, it just took any wind out of my sails for
Sure.
finishing it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
No, that's understandable.
Yeah, as somebody who watched it and was a huge fan up until about that point, I'll say you didn't really miss much. You missed an interpretation of how it could have ended, and that's about it. I'd love to see a different way.
Right.
We really won't know until his last book comes out, whenever that might be.
Yeah, and I doubt HBO is going to take a kick at the can. You're releasing it now. Well, look, it's been great to chat with you.
Yeah.
Really appreciate a Sunday morning, and happy Father's Day to you,
Thank you.
Troy. Enjoy the rest of the day. Looking forward to seeing everything that you guys have coming up over the next months, and looking forward to seeing you again at another con. I'm not sure, maybe a decaf.
Decaf, possibly, yeah.
And then
you know what? When we see a decaf, we'll probably have at least a proofs there for which of the time we'll give you a preview of that. So you
Yeah.
can
Sweet.
Sweet.
Yeah,
That's
the
awesome.
proofs were supposed to come in on Friday, but FedEx was maybe a little overconfident.
Okay.
So probably Monday, but we're gonna get the softcover and hardcover edition proofs. So we're really excited.
So you get a peek at that, at least what's coming up.
Yeah.
Awesome. If people are looking to follow you guys, Pegamoose Press, all that, where can they find Troy, Brenda, Pegamoose Press?
Yeah, we're on Instagram, of course. So
Yeah.
you can follow Pegamoose Press there, or Troy's and Gore Napkin.
Yep.
And I'm Brenda Hickey on Instagram. So you can follow all 3 accounts if you feel. like you want to.
PegaMoosePress.com is our base of operations if you need to see the website, and I think it should have links to all of our social media stuff from there too.
Right. Yeah.
Right on. Well, look, thanks again.
Yeah.
Have an amazing rest of the weekend. It's back to the daily grind tomorrow, so enjoy the rest of your day. It's a beautiful day outside. Hopefully, it's just as nice in PEI. And
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
thanks again for coming on the show. Really great to chat with you.
Really appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right.
care.
See you later.
Bye.
Yeah.